Hello, welcome back to What the Flick. I'm Matt. That's Alonso. One of us may or may not be a host. Right? I'm waiting for the robot dancing. So Westworld.
Can the robot do the robot?
Probably. Westworld season 2 is on HBO now. We're now 2 episodes into it. We're going to talk about the first episode.
Journey into Night.
Journey into Night, yeah. So this one, we first start off, well, let's see. Bernard's found on the beach, right?
Right, but immediately there's questions of, they seem to know that he's a robot and not care, because there's the one woman who's got the screen and his face is on it.
Right.
But while all the other hosts.
No, see, I don't think actually that wasn't a screen. That was the cards, right?
Right, but the cards were identifying the hosts. I
thought that. See, all right, so we're already disagreeing on things.
So I don't know.
So I think those cards are for the mercs that have come in to look for the executives, because it was a big executive.
Okay,
party,
well then that
right?
would explain why they don't shoot him on sight. That was my big question, but I like that suggestion better.
Right. In fact, he dodges a bullet, so to speak, because when they're looking for the hosts that are nearby with that thing, somehow he's worried he's going to show up. Right.
Mind you, we are already plumb back into the world of multiple timelines.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, oh God, Westworld. Okay, fine. What do you got? So we're basically kind of picking up moments after the Sacco ending of season 1.
Right.
With Dolores shooting Ford, and the immediate aftermath of the sort of, what are they, the Delos board members?
Yeah, Delos.
The Delos board members sort of running for their lives and hiding in terror and being sought out. And for the Man in Black, this is now the realization that he gets to do Westworld all over again, but this time with the safety off.
Right.
Now he can die. He can be killed. He has to actually, win in a fair fight, and so he's off on a quest for a thing.
Yes. Yeah, and we get flashbacks and then times, and then the show is gonna look. I think that at any given time, and we'll get into this when we start discussing the second episode. I think we're going to find that there's multiple timelines, and who knows what's going on at any given time, right? We see, first up, Bernard starts thinking back about the night that Ford was shot, and he is hiding out with some of the other executives and trying to get them to safety. There's may or may not be a back door he can get to, and Dolores is hunting them down.
Yes.
Teddy seems to be kind of along for the ride. Like,
he hasn't committed to the revolution just yet.
Right.
Meanwhile, you have Maeve, who could have made a clean getaway.
Right.
But wants to go back for her daughter, and being told that her daughter is basically a line of code in her mind doesn't matter. And so I think that whole moment, that exchange about all of that kind of plays up one of the show's sort of main themes, which is like, who is to say that a false implanted memory or a false implanted personality or backstory or whatever is any less legitimate or organic than what we think of as our own memories, and can we even trust our own memories, and how do we see the world, and all that sort of ontological stuff that the show likes to flirt with as far as how humanity works and do we have a soul, and
Well, and I think that when we talk about her deciding not to make the clean getaway at the end of last season, the show had already told us that if a host leaves, it'll explode, right? Or like there's a fail-safe that keeps that technology from falling into the wrong hands.
Right.
This is our first time that we've actually started to get to see what's actually inside the hosts, like the kind of central processor.
Did Maeve not know that last season?
I don't think she did.
Okay.
I think she just happened to turn back. I don't think that she did.
Because
and we'll talk about that.
I didn't go back and watch all of season 1 again, so yeah, I was relying very heavily on the previously on.
Right, and then she comes across the one programmer, Lee, and like forces, kind of twists his arm and threatens him and decides that he's gonna help her,
right?
Because she wants to go and find her daughter, right? And I think we're gonna see some really interesting. I mean, look, like the show is already doing that, but I think that this is, now that we've had the setup and the revolution, we're going to get this really fascinating kind of philosophical discussions around various things about, if if the memories are programmed and the emotions are programmed, does that make them any less valid? Versus on the other side of that, what it means for the Man in Black to really push himself and find out who he really is, or who anyone really is.
Right, and obviously he is also clearly discovering that Ford has left another puzzle for him to solve.
Right.
Which I think is going to take up the bulk of this season, among other things.
Yeah, it's and we've already heard we're going to get a season 3. So.
Right. Yes. And there's also the moment here with the drowned hosts with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that clearly is later.
I think so. Right. And something Bernard did that killed them.
Yeah.
Like, did he program them all to walk into the water? Well, that's the other thing. How dead are any of the hosts?
That's the other. There was a moment where actually it was, and we'll get to this in episode 2. But there was just a moment where you hear somebody breathing, and I thought, would they? I mean, they wouldn't need to breathe. Would you teach them to breathe? Because it would seem that would be the tip off that they weren't human if they didn't occasionally let air in and out. Like, I don't know. Just I sort of that was a rabbit hole I started going down.
I kind of hope that we get some answers to that. But who knows?
Yeah, I stopped waiting for answers for this show for a long time ago. Right. I just kind of go with it. I'm like, all right, we're going to see this now. And maybe you'll explain this to me, and maybe you won't.
And we're going to get a 3rd season. They've already announced.
Yes.
I guess my concern with this, my fear, I'm going to say this now. My fear is that there's not a whole plan, right? And I think we somewhat saw this with Lost. We saw this with Battlestar Galactica. That things move along in a way that maybe the whole thing wasn't mapped out exactly the way the audience expected, or at least hoped. I mean, not mapped out that everybody knew where it was going, but there's, I guess you assume that your showrunner has an inherent end goal, and you trust that no matter what twists and turns and crazy stuff they throw at you, and then you find out, oh, they just kind of kept writing themselves in a corner.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I think I've talked to some people who are creatives, and they seem to have like, well, season 4 is going to be da-da-da, like, and they, before the show's even on the air. So like they've already kind of thought in the long term.
Straczynski did that.
Yeah, but at the same time, they don't know yet if season 4 is even going to happen. So that's the weird thing about U.S. television. Unlike, in England, you do your little 6 episode series, and you can very precisely kind of map out where it's going to go. But here it's a matter of like, how many is going to be in the order, and am I going to get renewed or not? And so am I going to get to tell a complete story? It is a weird thing. I'm hoping that with this show, given who's involved and that it's HBO, that they have a clearer handle on it.